third choice I made was to build trust. And all this rolls right into each other. And you know this, but there was a time in which what trust meant to me was I couldn't trust anyone. Nobody could trust me, and I couldn't trust myself. And so I had to make a deliberate choice to build trust. So I am always fascinated and eager to hear, and I know you focus on this professionally, but first, has there ever been a time that you personally, Mo, have had to build trust in yourself?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Great. Will you share with us one or all? Just share.
Well, part of the downside, and this ends up harming me in a way, but part of the downside of wanting to chase the ball all the time, the dog metaphor, is I'll write down, in these little booklets we talked about, I got examples over the year of these real ambitious goals I'd write on pen and paper, whatever. But part of that is that then it harms me later because I set the bar so high that I'm continually stretching outside my comfort zone. So a real tangible example might be giving a big keynote speech in front of a huge audience, which I love doing. But let's say it's a new speech. Let's say I've never delivered this exact message before. There's a story I'm going to tell and then the insights behind it that I've never done before. Well, I will rehearse that for literally like 100 times. I'll go walk around the neighborhood or go for a long run, and I'm just sitting there rehearsing. I'll time it like, oh my gosh, I'm 3 minutes too long. I got to get short. I got to cut out something. What am I going to cut out? Oh my God. So every time, I know these are smaller versions, but every time I'm stretching outside my comfort zone, I have self-doubt. I'm like, I don't know if it's good enough. I don't know if they're going to like it. I don't know if it's what the organization needs or whatever. So then these are work examples, but the same is true in personal life. Yeah. So I almost react to that by overworking and over preparing. And then it almost always goes great. But then that can sort of harm me in some other part of life, if that makes sense. And then you get out of balance, and now you're the driven idea. You're back.
That's what I was thinking about. Your drift deliver design?
Yeah, drift driven design.
Yeah. Driven. Sorry, I messed that up. Yep. Right. And then you get out of balance there.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And then you got to snap back or find a way to do it. And maybe there's time, maybe there isn't. But that's exactly it. So I think you were asking about self-trust. I actually experienced that a lot. And one of the goals I set this year is and this is, hopefully you think this is funny, but to have some freedom and make it easy. So I created a word called freezy. I want this year to be freezy because it was so much stretching outside my comfort zone last year with just the hours worked, the constant evolution, the doubling in size of a business and shouldering way too much of that load on myself, building out the team, trying to staff up for this year all at once. And I had too much stretching last year. I need less stretching this year. And the first quarter still had too much, but part of that was winding down commitments from last year. And then this second quarter, 2022, has been a lot better, and I want to keep that going. So I think this sort of ebbs and flows, but whichever one of those is bad or out of balance, that's the one I had last year, maybe the last 2 years, and now I need the other.
Right. Yeah. And I appreciate how you chunk things down too, because I think a lot of times building trust in ourselves or with other people, trust is in the little things. And if we're not focused on that, then how are we going to accomplish the big things?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's, I know that's the lack of trust, but then on the flip of it, it's like, I have this crazy desire that if I say I'll have something to somebody by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, like I have all these systems that yell at me if I don't have it. And now, of course, I'm thinking of a whole team. So if somebody else email on our team to somebody and say, hey, I'll have it to you by 5 on Tuesday, like I freak out. I can't get that commitment out of my head. And one of the things we talk a lot about, at least at the company, is being reliable. And I talk about this a lot with my daughters too, is like, if you say a thing, you have to do the thing. You have to. And it's almost to an unhealthy extent, because every once in a while it's okay to email and say, hey, the thing's going to be later. But
yeah, that's right. But in the way that I've seen you, you reset an expectation that's different than not doing what you're saying.
Right. That's exactly right. So anyway, that I think trust has a lot to do with that. And I'll give you. You probably want to move on to another topic, so I'll give. Yeah.
No, I don't, because I wanted to get your perspective on how do you inspire the trust of others? And you just gave us one of the really big ones that you focus on. Is there anything else? I know there's a lot of things. Is there anything else that you would think about when it comes to inspiring the trust of others?
Yeah, I will say one more thing. Adam Grant has a good term called, this just struck me like a lightning bolt, and he calls it otherish. And I love the term otherish. And one of the things that I try really hard, my family tries really hard, we try to really hard at the big team, 20-some people now, is being otherish. It's one of our core values even. And I think what's interesting about it is it's just always thinking, how can I be helpful to the other side? Like, I don't even care if I'm talking to somebody, if they're paying for something or not. I don't even think about it. I'm just diving into how can I help that person? Whether they're a neighbor, they're somebody looking for a job, they're somebody that's paying for advice or training at work. Like, I just think being otherish or always thinking, how can I be helpful to the other person, is hardwired in me. And I think that, to your point, if we combine those two things, if we always do what we say we're going to do, and if we're always thinking with empathy, how am I helpful to the other person? Like, you're going to win over the course of your life, over the course of a day, if you're always doing those two things.
That's awesome. Thank you for joining me for our Choose and Become interview series. You could find this episode and others at trishkendall.com. Just go to trishkendall.com/choose-become-interview-series. Or if you have a question or just want to leave a comment, email me, trish@trishkendall.com.